Gents, I just want to pause the episode for a moment to let you know about the Strong Men of Value Academy. You will have heard me refer to it a number of times, and I want to bring more attention to it. So this isn't just a program, it's a life-changing environment and community of men who are focused on personal and professional growth. We're looking at areas of relationships, wealth, and health, things to help you thrive and maximize your life. Imagine having bi-monthly one-on-one coaching sessions with myself, weekly group coaching calls, and an incredible brotherhood of high achievers by your side. Now we're diving into resilience, leadership, and holistic growth to not just succeed in your career, but to thrive in your health and your relationships. Your journey to greatness, it starts here. So join the movement and you can apply for the Strong Men of Value Academy. You can head to themanthatcanproject.com to find out more.
The need for motivation is a symptom of an uninspired goal. So for me, it's like people say I want freedom. I just crave freedom. And I say, okay, I'm going to give you $1 billion right now. I don't have $1 billion, but say I gave you $1 billion and you had nothing on your calendar. Would you just sit on your couch and do nothing all day? Most people are going to say no. And then you say, okay, well, what would you do?
The Man That Can Project podcast, a podcast empowering career-driven men to live more fulfilling lives. We are here to challenge your beliefs, redefine success, and talk about the important stuff in a relatable way. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. My name's Lachlan, Stuart. Let's get into it. Lewis, welcome to the show, mate. I was on your show a couple of weeks ago, and I have been very excited to return serve and have you on here.
Mate, thank you for having me, mate. It's a pleasure. I know we sat next to each other unconsciously at an event with Gary V a couple months before, or last year at some point. So
yeah,
mate, I think the stars were always going to align for us to be here. You obviously came on mine and had an epic conversation. So, mate, pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I came across your content maybe two and a bit years ago, and have been following closely since. And you're really, really good at breaking down difficult conversations and really simplifying them. And, you know, you've just hit a good gym session, so we have a lot in common with getting, I guess, our health goals out of the way. But before we dive into stuff around relationships, because I was going through your content and I'm like, what have we not covered on the podcast in a long while? And, you know, where's, I guess, a great area from your expertise that we can dive into. And obviously your goal is to help people live inspired lives and, you know, mindset coaching and a lot of the frameworks you do, but you've really got a unique knack of breaking down relationship stuff. So I'd love to dive into that shortly. But before we got to that point, you are an incredible entrepreneur. You started in the fitness industry at 18, bought your first gym at 20, I think, or somewhere around there, and then went on to purchase a couple more. So can you give us a bit of a background, Lewis, around your first, what drew you to the fitness industry and then entrepreneurship and business owning?
Beautiful, mate. Yeah, definitely. I guess like from the start, I don't see myself as an entrepreneur. Like I don't, when people say, what do you do? I'm a coach. So I'll share the story and it'll probably line up with that. But sports background, rugby league. I think we had a bit of conversation about that off air once, and love sport. And I had a teacher. I really struggled at school, so I was a very slow learner. Hence why you teach the way that you learn. So that's why I break things down. Because if you ever had a kid in class who always was asking why, I don't understand. Can you explain it again? That was me. And I was in the learning disabled classes. My handwriting. I was the last kid in my whole grade to get my pen license back at school when I did that.
Pen license.
Pen license, biro license is I think the name they used back then. So so I really struggled with learning. It was like once I understand it, but I was just slow to understand it. So with that being said, I went to a big sporting school on the Gold Coast, PBC, for any PBC Reds out there, listen to this. And they're a big sporting school, and I love rugby league, and that was my outlet. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I had a really awesome teacher a couple of awesome teachers that really changed my life at that school, Mick Manneman and Zimo, if they ever hear this. And they just really changed my life. They mentored me. We struggled a lot financially growing up, so we didn't have money for mentors or tutors and stuff like that. And they were just like another father figure for me. And they would meet me before school, train me, physically train me for sports, but also Muay Thai for self-defense reasons, because it was quite a tough school that we went to. And yeah, it helped me with my studies. And they just did all this, and they did it for free. They just said, "Hey, meet me at school at this time at whatever 6 a.m. in the morning, and I'll look after you. But if you don't come, then we're not going to do it." So yeah, that really changed my life, and I wanted to give that back to others. So I wanted to be a high school teacher and a personal trainer because I like training. That was kind of the goals. And I started the fitness side of that. So I applied to all these gyms. They all said no. Said, "You've got no experience. We don't want you." And I was like, "How do you get any?" Like, I'm just trying to get started. And then I remember I called off Gumtree and just saw this place. It was called PLC. And I called him up and said, "Hey, mate, I don't want any money. Can I just come work for free and get some work experience?" And he said, "Yep, absolutely, come on down." And that started the fitness journey. I did not know it was going to end up the way it ended up. And yeah, I went down. I ended up working for free for 2.5 years, and I didn't even just work for free. I paid for it. He, the cheeky bastard, charged me a gym membership, so I paid for a job. And for anyone that knows me well and has watched my journey, it wasn't like a couple of hours here and there. It was like full time, and more than full time. It was like I was running the damn thing. And I got a great opportunity at the end of it to purchase half of the business when I was 20. So that's what you're referring to before. So I purchased half of the first one when I was 20. And this is very naive. Like they talk about in the business journey, you've got the uninformed optimist where like, this is going to be epic. This will be sick. Let's do it again. Let's go again. And I remember like a week into purchasing the first one, my business partner at the time says, "Let's do another one." And he's like, let's go. And I was like, uninformed. I was like, yeah, why not? Let's go. And then literally the next week we're looking for leases to sign a lease. And we signed a lease within a couple of months. And then we started doing pre-sales, opened up the second one. I remember I got the keys to it on my 21st birthday. So I met the landlord, got the keys for it, and was literally going to my 21st celebration that night. So that's a good memory. And then within this, a lot of failures, a lot of mistakes, a lot of like fuck ups, a lot of learnings, obviously, a lot of successes as well. And got to a point where I actually hired myself out of the business. So I had 2 gyms running without me. And then another business partner, the same business partner, he'd opened another one, and he wasn't running it properly. He thought it was just like open it, hire one person, they'll just build it for you. But the person was the wrong person, not enough systems, processes in place. And we're on a ski trip, and what not to do? We were actually high smoking some stuff, playing Monopoly, and we were like having a good time. It's like, bro, I don't want to build this gym. You've done it before. Do you want to take this gym off my hands? And I said, all right, yeah, why not? Let's go do it. And I said, and I was just the yes man. I was just like, and a lot of this was people pleasing. And it was like me, being a people pleaser and compensating for some stuff. And I said yes to it. And literally the day I got back, got off the plane, drove to the studio, a trainer had picked me up and said, "Oh, hey, I've heard some rumors. Apparently like the manager's sleeping with one of the members." And the manager was like 45 years old, married. And this client was like 18 years old. I had the conversation with him. It was true. Had to fire him day one. Then the other 2 trainers, they told me they were leaving in a month. So I literally got there. All the team was gone within 2 weeks, and the business was losing about $3,000 a week. And because I was so, I guess, naive still, and I just lacked the self-worth to say, "Hey, I'm out of this deal. This deal's shit. This deal doesn't make sense." I just said, "Okay, fuck it." I said, "Yes, I'm a man of my word. I'll make it happen." And then I just grinded my way through that and made that happen. And along the way, I butted some heads with the business partner. He was going left, I was going right. I ended up just giving one of the businesses to him because it was just not worth my time and wasn't worth it to me. It was too stressful for me. Went through COVID with 2 gyms. Very fun, very challenging.
I can imagine.
That was an interesting period. And this whole time, so the gym was a franchise, so I was a franchisee, and the whole franchise went bankrupt. So the whole franchise shut down. And so I was in a bit of a weird position where I could have kept going with the gyms. I had another business partner at another one. She was trying to sue the franchise. So it was a big shit show towards the end of it. And I had that opportunity to say, should I go again? Should I just jump back in and build this up? I've done it before, and I've been doing it for about sort of 7 years by this time. But along that journey, I got a lot clearer on who I was, like my purpose, my vision, my values, what I'm here to do, and like what really, really lights me up and what really means the most to me. But because when I got started, and when most people get started, they don't know what they truly want. Most entrepreneurs want to make money, they want freedom, they want impact, they want to support their family and all that stuff. But most people, even to this day, don't know what their purpose is. And that's one of the first things I teach with the stuff I teach now. And within that period, once I sold the first one, or got rid of the first one, during that sort of COVID period, even went deeper, but it was a little bit before that, where it's like, I love coaching people. I love healing people. I love the mental, emotional, spiritual transformation that I can do for others, and helping people integrate the spiritual and the commercial together, because I kind of got those 2 skill sets. And I love doing that. And yeah, I made a decision I think it was like 2021 or 2022. It was like, I will do whatever it takes to get to a place where I get to live out my purpose and give this back to others. And that's where I sold the second one, because that's when I was like, should I just pick it up, run it again? I've got this asset, it's already open, it's kind of breaking even. I could build this up, hire someone, get out of there. I'm like, that's another 6 months, and then something else could happen, and I could just kick the can down the road. So I was like, nah, I'm going to sell it. So I sold it back, didn't get a ton of money from it, got like 50 grand from it. So not a ton of money for what it was worth. And then I had my third one, which was just me. That was the business where I was the only director there. I wasn't a director. I had a business partner at the other two. So I was the only business owner here. And I had hired myself out of it, and I had a gym running without me. I was doing about an hour a week there with the manager there, and it was profiting about sort of $2,000 to $4,000 a week, depending on the week. And then I had all the time and freedom to do this and to build this up. And I've been doing this full time for about 2.5 years now. I was kind of doing it on the side. Like, someone would come down for a nutrition consult and would end up unpacking all their traumas and shit during a nutrition consult. So that was pretty fun. I remember there was one specifically. She came down for it was her first day. So I just met this woman, and she's a beautiful woman, and she was just so. I've kind of got that sixth sense of when someone's not okay. It's like very empath, if you want to use that word. And she came down, and she was just like, one of my greater gifts is helping people feel safe and helping them to open up. And it's just something that comes with me. And yeah, she came down for, I think it was like a nutrition, calories, protein, macros, which obviously you understand pretty well. And she ended up unpacking something. Her husband had committed suicide a couple of months earlier, and we actually healed the whole thing. Like, I've got a process that I use to heal it all, and we did that. And like, she was like in tears. She signed up. Yeah, she did sign up.
Yeah.
After that, like, fuck, this is a good gym. So I just loved it because, like, for me, like the skills, Tony Robbins, so many people say it, like, success in life is 80% psychology, 20% skills. The skills are easy. Like, how to be fit and healthy, you know this. Train hard. Yep. Eat decent food. Don't eat Maccas every day. Get some good sleep. Drink some water. It's not that complicated. And like business, obviously, there's more facets to business. But have a good product. Tell people about your product. Give them a great experience, and do that for a long period of time. Learn all skills on that. Learn how to hire people. Like, the skills are quite simple, but it's generally our mental and emotional blocks that stop us. I'm not enough. I'm not worthy. I can't do this. Our triggers, which we were talking about before, and that's just what fascinates me, and that's what really inspires me. It's what really gets me going. So yeah, I think it was an inevitable place I would get to, and I'm grateful that I'm there now. So I do that every day now. So I wake up, my calendar is normally pretty free. It's either coaching people. I've got a couple of one-on-one clients. I only work with a couple. And then I'm building a community at the moment. I build programs. I obviously have my own podcast. I'm writing a book. And yeah, it's just to help people heal, help people expand their own awareness and consciousness, and create a life that they love. So that was kind of the journey, man.
An incredible journey at that, and I can relate to a lot of the things there. And there was two points that I took note of there that I didn't want to interrupt. But the first one, I know a lot of people sit on the fence with going all in, and you mentioned 80% psychology and 20% skill sets. And I believe making money, business, health, even relationships are very simple if we understand the processes. It's the psychological stuff that's the hardest stuff, jealousy, the self-doubt, etc. You obviously had a successful gym, even the last one when it was by yourself, profiting $2,000 to $4,000 a week. That would have been very easy for many people to sit on. But for you to want to go all in on what you know to be your purpose, how did you come to that decision? And I guess the second question of that is, why did you feel so comfortable going all in?
Yeah, beautiful question. I haven't really had that asked that way before. The quote, I teach in quotes. I think quotes, if anyone follows me, I post a lot of quotes, so I like quotes. So I like this quote: couch and do nothing all day. Most people are going to say no. And then you say, okay, well, what would you do? And if you just follow those lines of questions, your answers are going to be things that inspire you, because we have, there's motivation, which is the extrinsic drivers, like the pain, pleasure type of thing. And then there's the intrinsic drivers. And for most people, when they start, I had this question. I did a little masterclass for a community the other day, and it was on discipline. And I use the same quote. It's like, some people think I'm disciplined. I don't think I'm that disciplined. I just do things I want to do. Funny that. It's like, is Roger Federer disciplined at playing tennis, or he loves it? Obviously, there's parts of that is discipline, but it's like, he's not trying to do shit he doesn't love. He clearly loves what it is that he's done, and he's done that for such a long period of time. So for me, it's like I was going to do it anyways. It's like I could just sit on that, but I'm not just going to go play. I'm a little nerd at heart, so I played Mario Kart with my partner last night, and we play games kind of once or twice a week. But it's like I'm not just going to do that all day. I'm get bored. It's like, well, what lights me up? What really fulfills me? And then this is where I sort of have a tiered structure where I go through with people. We start with values. What intrinsically lights you up? So whether it's family, health, wealth, relationships, music, dancing, coaching, for me, that's my highest value. Where do they come from? So your voids create values. This is where pain, purpose, wounds, wisdom, and that's where the balance comes from. And then your purpose in life is an expression of your biggest core wound once you've healed the wound. I'll say that again. I'll explain what I just said. So your highest purpose in life is an expression of your greatest core wound once healed. So for me, my greatest core wound was I was very hurt, scared, and lost. So I was diagnosed with autism, Asperger's, ADHD when I was younger, and I really struggled. I cried a lot as a kid. I was very emotionally volatile upbringing with my dad, especially like punching holes through walls, screaming at my mum and dad. My mum, my sister, my brother, literally petrified and very scared. And he's a very, very beautiful man. He's obviously got his stuff that he's working through, and we've grown and healed a lot together. But that was my greatest core wound. And this is where I sort of lean into the trauma side of things of life. When you get people, I ran my first live event on a week ago, actually. A week ago, we kicked that off.
Congrats, mate.
And thank you, mate. It was so fun. I can't wait to run more of them. And we actually did purpose. And it was really cool just to see so many people, because this is what lights me up the most, is when you ask that question, it's like, well, what's your greatest core wound? That's a pretty brutal question to ask. Not brutal. It can be a hard question for people to answer because the ego wants to avoid pain. So this is why it takes a bit of time to meditate and journal and work through this process. But when you think about that, you're essentially asking yourself, what's your biggest trauma? That's essentially what you're asking. They may be different, but it can be the same. It might have been like you weren't enough for your parents. Like you weren't being who you were authentically wasn't enough. You had to be someone else. So maybe your purpose, because once you've healed that, how you could express it is to help other people love themselves for who they are authentically. That may be it. Maybe your biggest core wound. I actually spoke to Georgia about it yesterday. It's a 4-year anniversary yesterday, and we went out to dinner for it. And I kind of talk about the show all the time. I said, "Hey, babe, can you refresh me? What's your purpose again?" And I knew what it was. I just wanted to hear it again from her. And hers is to create a stable family, a stable family. That was hers. I said, what's the core wound, what that came from? And she got a bit emotional, do it, because obviously this is where the drive comes from. And she's like, I just had such an emotionally volatile family household. Her dad was in jail. Her mum was very, like, her mum had her when she was like 18. It was just a very unstable household. And if you think about the emotion that's tied to that memory or tied to that experience, it can be quite high. Like highly emotional, you get anxious, stressed, angry, or whatever the emotion is attached to it. If you're familiar with the term transmutation, it's in the book Think and Grow Rich, sexual transmutation, where you essentially use your sexual energy for anything besides the act of. When you transmute that energy of pain, of anger, or frustration, or whatever the pain was, and transmute that into action, you don't need a fucking coffee. You don't need motivation. Hence the quote I said before. The need for motivation is a symptom of an uninspired goal. When I think of and feel who I was back then, when I was hurt, scared, lost, I don't need motivation. I don't need like, I'm too scared to post a fucking video. It's like, it doesn't even pop up because I've got that drive. Very cliche. When the why is big enough, the how is easy. That's kind of the actual implementation of that. And yeah, like I said it in the crowd with everyone, I said, who here feels a lot of emotion doing this right now? Feel into that. Do you need a fucking coffee to take action to do something about it? And everyone laughed and had a bit of a smile. But that's how I think back to your original question is like, why did I not just sit on the gym and keep going to it? It's because I fucking want to, because it drives me. It's like, fuck, I want to help me back then. There's another quote that sort of comes to mind is you become the person you needed when you're at your lowest. Like I know we spoke a little bit about your journey. I would assume that you had pain around healthy masculine or in your life, whether it's your father or your upbringing, and you would be becoming the man or the role model or the person that you needed when you were at your lowest. And does that align with you as well?
Definitely.
Perfect.
And I really liked where you were going with that when you were talking about the pain or just understanding what you wanted to get away from is more than motivation. And for me, whenever I have moments like that, I work out what I can do right away to start taking action on that. One thing I've noticed with people is they may see someone walk apart, for example, dudes, they may see a bloke walk past them on the beach with fully jacked and they're like, Monday, I'm starting at the gym. Whereas for me, if I saw that and got this little bit of motivation or inspiration, I'd roll over and do 10 push-ups and just get something going now, because the longer I leave it between the decision and the act, the less likely I'm going to do it.
Yeah. I love that. It's awesome. I think it was Hormozy. I'm a big Hormozy fan. And it's like people that are more successful than others, they condense the time frame from when they take action. So as soon as you get that inspiration or motivation, it's like, how fast can you implement it? If you think about like most people, it's like they get an idea. It's like, oh, I'll get this done by the end of the week. Or the end of the day. But if you say, I'm going to get this done in the next 20 minutes. Obviously, you got a plan and structure and priorities. But yeah, mate, I love that. And I'm a big fan of that as well.
Yeah, I think it's very important, because I just wasted a lot of time when I was younger. And then I guess things that we've touched on at the beginning, like self-doubt would creep in, and you'd start, the moment you start doubting yourself, I was looking for ways to validate that doubt, and then I definitely wouldn't take any action. And once again, I'd be sitting in the same position. So for anyone listening, that's a good tip. So listening, obviously, to what Lewis said around understanding the motivation behind things and just really looking at the quality of your life and finding, even for me, like I think we spoke about this on your podcast, actually, when I was saying my psychologist, I still hold on to a lot of pain. Don't necessarily hold on to it in a poor way, but I look back at it from where I came from as a reason why I still get out of bed every day. Even though I love what I do on a daily basis of it, part of it's like I don't want to go back there. And I feel like it's healthy because it just keeps me going, and I love that element. The other thing that you mentioned from your story that I find fascinating, especially at such a young age, was you came back and you had to fire a staff member straight away, and you had to go into having a tough conversation. Where did you develop the skill to have those conversations, and what made you feel comfortable doing that? Because people avoid that all the time now.
Yeah. Mate, honestly, that's one of my greater weaknesses. It was one of my greater weaknesses. So I struggled with it. Just to give a live example, my second studio, so the one that I got when I was 21, I think it was about 12 months into it. And because I was very much I'll do it myself at the start. And obviously then you evolve and you learn how to hire people and delegate and empower people. But yeah, we got to a point where we were profitable, we're making a little bit of money, and we had a team member in there, and she just wasn't the right fit. Like, her attitude's quite negative. And it's like, I obviously try to coach my clients, my team, and sometimes I try to overcoach them and try to turn water into wine sometimes. And she just was the wrong person. And I'm very guilty of seeing the best in others. It's like, I can see the potential, because like, if I was in your shoes, this is what I would do. And you can do this, you're capable of this. But it's like, some people are addicted to their problems. And if you fight for your limitations, you get to beat them. Listen to what I just said. And anyway, so she was the wrong decision. Like, if I ask my heart, is she the right person for the decision? The team? No, she's not. Her numbers reflect that. Other people reflect that. The clients reflect that. And I was too scared to fire her. I was too scared. And I think it took my business partner, who this is something he was very good at as well, is just being really cutthroat and just being like, mate, like, it's mate, you're going to fuck this business by keeping her here. She's the cancer in the body. You got to cut the arm off to save the body. But the way I look at it now, and what helped me sort of reframe things and understand things, and this can tie into relationships as well. If you know in your heart of hearts that this person is the wrong person for the role, for the relationship, for the position that they're in, does that mean that they are the right person for a position elsewhere? Absolutely. It's like, if you're dating someone, they're the wrong fit for you. That just means they're the right fit for someone else. So every second that you do not cut them off, have the tough conversation, or do what you need to do, you're actually taken away from them finding and being in the place they're meant to be. So it's actually very selfish of you by holding on to them. And that reframe really helped me. That really, really helped me. And I remember the first conversation, that conversation I'm referring to, I cried firing it. It was fucking hard. I was crying. It was very hard. It's just like, she's got kids, she's got a partner, she's got bills to pay, she's got rent. It's like, it was fucking hard for me. And it's like, always the first monster that you slay is, it obviously gives you the reference and the skill and the experience to then slay bigger monsters. But mate, still, that was still challenging for me for about, I think, 2 years of doing that. one more time, when I had the third one, and the business was losing about $3,000 a week, which is a lot of money, and I prematurely hired someone because I had a fair bit of money saved up from the other two. I was very much like live off like bare minimum and just put it all in a safety bucket because I'm very, very risk adverse. And I had about 120 grand in the bank. And I said, $3,000 a week, that's all right. I'll build this up in time. She'll be right. And then I hired someone to help me out with it, to speed it up, keep going. And it's like literally, and it was just going down, like it's going down to 100, to 80, to 60 and whatever. And it's like, and I knew this person was the wrong person. And I literally waited because I was the only business owner there. So I didn't have my business partner sort of giving me that healthy pressure. And I remember I only fired him because I was like, I need a reason to fire. He's a good guy. He just moved to the Gold Coast. He's got another kid. He's got a partner. It's like, oh my God, he's going to be out on his own and I want to look after him. But it's like, he wasn't performing. His numbers didn't make sense. His attitude wasn't amazing. He was actually a really good guy. I think it was a good culture fit, but he just wasn't getting the job done. And it's like, I waited until I had like, I think it was like 2,000. The business was kind of breaking even then, but it was like, I waited until I physically had no money it's like, I had to fire him, or the business wouldn't have enough money to run. And that was like the reason I brought into the conversation. And that was like 5 years into my journey. So I needed like a really black and white reason why I'm not doing it because I hate you. This is why I'm doing it. So that was about 4 years ago or something like that, or maybe 5 years ago. And the more I go down that, the more I see it through that lens I said before, where you're doing this person a disservice by holding on to them. Like, I've seen him this guy since, and he's doing really well. He's at another gym. He looks really happy. He's got another kid. Like, he looks really happy and fulfilled. And if I was to hold on to him, well, I physically couldn't because I'd run out of money by that time. But yeah, I struggled with it. So to give any advice on for people that are going to have the conversation, your life is one tough conversation away from being the life that you want. So just think about that, whether it's your partner, whether it's a team member, whether it's yourself. And just really, really lean into that and just look at what's the benefit of obviously having that, but what's the downside of not having that for obviously yourself and the person involved and everyone who has a connection to them, like their kids or their partners and stuff like that. But yeah, mate, the mission for business, no one man or woman is more important than the mission. So if this person is not the right person for the mission of the business or the company, you got to cut the arm off to save the body. And you can obviously have it in healthy conversations. You can obviously frame it in a healthy way, which I've become really, really good at. But mate, it was a very, very hard learning curve. That was probably my hardest lesson to learn, to be honest, with my with the leadership side of things. So yeah, mate, challenging lesson, but yeah, very, very, very comfortable now having those conversations. But mate, it took me 5-6 years to get comfortable at that.
I really liked your quote there. You finished with, "You're one tough conversation away from living your best life." Or sorry, I missed the end of it. But I had to have a tough conversation this week with one of my close mates around that, just because. And someone challenged me on Instagram, which is fair, like around perspective. But I think it's important within relationships to feel valued and heard, and it's a reciprocal relationship. You're not the one who's constantly making the phone calls, constantly trying to organize the catch-ups. And in this instance, I was. And what I'm obviously aware of is you can keep doing that, right? And for some people, if they're not mentally, they need support, but you also need to draw a line in the sand for yourself, because every time you keep reaching out, it's taxing on yourself. So I was like, look, I'm just going to call him on it, because we booked a call, even on Zoom, just to make it official. Yeah. And some people are like, why do you do that with your mates? I'm like, it has to happen. Yeah. And I called him on, he's like, mate, sorry, I'm busy. Something's come up. I'm like, you're on holidays, dude. Like, if you can't make 5 minutes to have a phone call, where's the value in our friendship? Like, it doesn't make me feel good reading that message. Yeah. And it was a good point, because once again, it highlighted something to him that it wasn't intentional, but it was still poor form. Yeah. And I probably should have had that conversation maybe 6 weeks ago. So that's a personal experience from that. As I was saying at the beginning of the episode, an area where I feel a lot of our audience will get huge value from is the way you break down relationships. And as you've mentioned, you love teaching through quotes. And one of the quotes I wrote down from one of your episodes was, "A relationship is a magnifying glass. Your partner points out triggers and trauma." Yeah. So I'd love to start there And could you elaborate a bit more on that quote?
Absolutely. So I've made I've iterated a quote from Peter Crone. So his quote is, life will present you with people and circumstances to reveal where you're not free. My iteration on that is, you will attract people and circumstances to reveal where you haven't healed. So they're quite similar, but I believe that, yeah, I'll lean into that. So there's three things. There's a book behind me. It's called You're Not Broken by Dr. Sarah Woodhouse. She's a psychologist, and she speaks about three things. There's trauma, there's traumatic reactions, and there's triggers. So the trauma is the event that happens, and that could be physically assaulted, raped, abused, abandoned, not feeling seen, not feeling enough, not feeling held, not feeling whatever. And it could be literally something as small as, you come home and you're fucking 5 years old or whatever it is, and you're like, Mum, Dad, I've had such a great day at school. I did this. Look at my painting. Look at my drawing. Look what I did. And Mum or Dad's on the phone. They say, hang on, son, I'm busy. I'll get back to you soon. They turn away. That could create a trauma or a belief that I'm not seen, I'm not enough, I'm not worthy. So it's not just the big T traumas of like abuse, rape, war, and all that stuff, which obviously can create a trauma. And that's a key word there, can, because there's some people, two people can go through the exact same thing. One person can have quite a trauma from it, one person might not, and that's okay. But whatever triggers you, so sort of sit with that for a little bit. So trauma is the event, and she's got a formula in there. It's perceived threat with the inability to protect yourself. That's kind of the foundation of trauma, or not feeling heard, not feeling loved, not feeling enough, essentially. So you've got the trauma, the event itself. Then you've got the reaction. That's also known as a coping mechanism. So some people, it's like, the simple one is like a dog. So say you get attacked by a dog, that's the event. That's the trauma. The reaction is you could feel scared and anxious. That's a pretty normal one. And then you see a dog. So the last one's a trigger. So a trigger activates it all, kind of sets it off. It's like if you got a wound, a cut on your arm, you touch it, it shocks you, it triggers you, right? So the trigger sets it off. So you've been attacked by a dog, you get anxious and scared, and then the trigger is you're walking down the street and there's a dog there. Most people have met someone who's like petrified of dogs. Very high chance that person's been attacked by a dog at some point. I used to have one. I've got sausage dogs, and like for any Americans listening to this, wiener dogs, if you guys call them that. And they're like the cutest little things. They bark sometimes, but they're literally like this big. They're like, they couldn't hurt you. They could hurt you if they tried, but they're very harmless. And like I've run gyms for a long time, and he was my best mate, my buddy, my little mascot for the whole time. And there'd be like some clients who'd walk in and be petrified, and they'd walk like to the other side of the gym to like get ready for the whatever. And I obviously went up and said, "Hey, can I ask just randomly, have you ever been attacked by a dog?" She's like, "Yes, I got attacked when I was younger. I almost died from a dog." Fair enough. That makes sense. So just sort of those three things. So traumas, traumatic reactions, and triggers. So we all have traumas. And some people don't even like to think that because like, oh, I haven't been raped, I haven't been abused, I haven't been abandoned. It can be those simple things of not being enough. It can be those simple things of not being heard, not feeling seen, your dad yelling at you, you failing a test, the partner breaking up with you, and you've taken on that belief, it's because I'm not enough. It's my fault. It's up to me, or whatever it is. And the beliefs and the traumas are stored in your head, and it becomes a part of your ego. And this kind of gets a little bit deep, but I'll try to keep it simple. So your ego is the identity of who you see yourself to be. And there's two parts of the ego. One, it wants to avoid pain. Two, it wants to be right. It will prove itself right, even if it's limiting. If you think you're not enough, it will make that fucking thing true. If you believe you're not lovable, it will make it true. So all of this let's take all those. So trauma, traumatic reactions, triggers, and then the ego. And then let's put that into a relationship. So a relationship, the reason it's a magnifying glass and it triggers you more than anyone else, it's because they see you more than anyone else. You and me, Lachlan, we've caught up 2 times. Like podcast, you're on mine, I've been on yours, and we sat next to each other, but we didn't really know each other, didn't really talk to each other.
Yeah.
So I've only seen this much of you. Your partner has seen a lot more than you than I have. She's seen you when you haven't had enough sleep, when you've had some financial pressure, when you're fucking stressed, when you've lost a sale, when your mate's done something, when your mum or dad or someone in the family's been sick, when the sink fucking breaks, have you got kids, by the way? No kids. So the kids, you haven't had enough sleep, the kids are sick, whatever it is. Like she sees so many versions of you. So just by proximity, she's going to see more parts to you than I'm going to see. So a trigger is just putting awareness on the wound. It's touching the wound. So say you've got an insecurity, and this ties into values, into to core wounds and all that stuff. They kind of all link into each other. I would assume there's some wounds, kind of what I was saying before about the masculine figure. So I assume around your dad or the father figure that you came up. Would that be fair? We won't go there now, but would that be fair to say? So say I came up to you and said, Lachlan, you're a shit fucking man. You're a disgrace for men and for masculine or whatever. If the wound's still there, it's going to trigger you, right? And then it's kind of where I was going with that, is your partner, just by putting awareness on it, is going to trigger you. So they're going to do little things like invalidate you. You kind of mentioned that before, like it's important to validate the other person. So it's like, say you say something and your partner is on their phone and they just don't recognize you and they don't actually respond to you. And then that triggers an unhealed wound within you that you haven't reconciled and healed through. And so you get frustrated and you snap back. And it's just those little micro ones. There's obviously bigger ones that can happen. And a quote sort of sum all this up as well, and then I'll give you a live example, is nothing triggers you. It reveals what's inside of you. So if you say that your partner triggered you, no, your partner revealed what's in you. And if you just really take ownership of that, it's very empowering and very liberating. So let's use an example. So I've got many, many examples. The one that, I like this one. So I'm normally the chef in the family for me and my fiance. And she's like, hun, would you like me to cook you dinner tonight? I'm like, fuck yeah, absolutely. She's like, do you want a burger? Yeah, love a burger. Would you like an egg with your burger? Yes, I would. I love eggs. And so I'm just sort of chilling on the couch, hanging out with the dogs. And I'm like a very helping person, very people-pleasing person. So I'm like, I'm going to go check in how she's doing, offer some help. And I walk up into the kitchen. And if you're going to have a burger with an egg on it, it's probably going to be a fried egg. I look at the pan and it looks like fucking scrambled eggs because she's like, fuck the egg up. Like she's like absolutely turned it into a dog's breakfast. And I'm like, babe, what's going on with the egg? And you could see instantly she like shifted. You could see I triggered her and she got really defensive. She's like, I can't do anything right. You're blah, 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 like, and all this stuff. And then the event happens, have a bit of a disagreement. I held myself pretty well with that one. So I regulated really well, held space with it and made her feel safe. Never try heal during the trigger. Wait till the storm passes and then you can handle it and process through it. Long story short, triggered her, had a bit of a disagreement. I held space really well, regulated, got through that. Once it was done, the burger was good, by the way. It was good food. And then anyways, and I said, babe, how do you feel? Do you feel safe right now? Do you feel regulated right now? Has the storm passed? Yep, I feel great. Can I ask you, what did I reveal in you just then? What triggered you just then? And she knew it because she obviously knows this work quite well. Been with me, there's kind of no option. You're gonna know this work. And she said, honestly, my ex-stepdad, everything I did was not enough. Everything I did, because Indian heritage is very much like women have to have this. It's like her assignment, it was an A, why was it not an A plus? You cooked this, you could have made it better. Like nothing was enough. So me saying what's going on with these eggs, this is showing that you're not enough, and I've triggered that in her. And then the final step from this process, ideally, is you heal through whatever was brought to the surface so it doesn't get triggered again. And when you can get to that level, so I think you were talking about before we kicked off about the 3 stages of relationships that I talk about. Number one's the honeymoon period. Love, sex, attraction, everything's amazing. And you're only showing some parts of yourself. You're hiding all of your triggers and skeletons over here because you don't want to see them. Step number 2 is where the triggers come up. It's where the skeletons come out. You reveal other parts of you, the triggers, the traumas, the wounds, and shit comes to the surface just because they're around you and they're going to see those parts of you. And if you don't learn to kind of do what I just said, where you can actually hold space for each other to be triggered, because there's no way to avoid it. Show me a single fucking relationship where you haven't triggered each other. I'm yet to find one. If you don't learn to recognize that your partner doesn't trigger you, they reveal what's in you. It's your shit, not theirs. If you don't then learn to recognize that and then heal through that, and there's how do you heal? That's a huge conversation. There's different modalities, there's different strategies, there's different ways to do it. There's DeMartini facilitation, that's my favorite way. There's NLP, timeline therapy, hypnotherapy, sound healing, Reiki healing, breath work, meditation, traditional therapy, psychedelics. I'm a big psychedelic fan. So I just gave you 10 strategies you can go heal, find your way to heal. But if you don't do that, you will then trigger, have an argument, build up that frustration. The same trauma or trigger will happen again, but it'll have the leftovers from the last one, and it gets worse and it gets worse and it gets worse. Eventually it blows up. Fuck this person. This person has all their shit. They're not healing through it. It's not me. It's only them, right? I've got no shit. It's only them. You break up, you go back, you find another partnership, a relationship, and you go through stage 1 and 2 again, and you repeat that cycle over and over and over again. That's most people's relationships. They don't make it to stage 3, which is the conscious part, or the enlightened conscious part, where you recognize you've got your stuff, your partner has their stuff, and you work through it together by holding space, by taking ownership, through regulating and through healing. Those are kind of a big answer to your question.
I loved that.
I hope that
was
answered your question, mate.
Yeah, no, you definitely, and you also touched on the phases of relationships, and I definitely agree. So many people, and even for me from a early age of dating, etc., I'd always get to that moving into the second phase, and I'd start to become more comfortable, and I'd probably start to get irritated and also irritate, but we never worked through it. It was just like argue, and my way of, I guess, arguing and disagreeing was I'd shut off and then I'd walk away. So leaving her feeling like I didn't care about the issue. So a lot of relationships broke down, and where myself and my wife are is in that third phase. And it's something that
awesome, man.
Always is a work in progress, but it's been such a fun experience. And I think every problem we solve just unlocks another one for us to solve as well. Like, it's just non-stop, but you get to enjoy it all and grow together in between that. What would be some red flags within relationships that people would want to look out for? There was another quote, and now that you've highlighted it to me, I'm like, you definitely love teaching through quotes, which makes it really easy for me to write things down. But whatever you need in life will control you. So you used that as a quote in one of the other episodes I listened to that you did. Could you elaborate on that in the relationship context?
Beautiful. So the first part. So I posted an episode. I think like last week. So that might be where you're referring to that from. So I talk about when are you healed enough for a relationship. So I think that's where you're getting this from. So this is just one man's opinion. You don't have to listen to or subscribe to this. But the first step for me, for anyone to get into a relationship, is you must be whole in who you are. You must be at a point where you're not attached or needy of anything. So kind of the quote you just said, I got this from Cohen Ray. I don't know where he got it from or if it's one of his, but whatever you need in life will control you. So if you're needy of money, you will be easily controlled and manipulated by the person or thing that you perceive has the keys to money. If you're needy of love, you'll be easily controlled, manipulated by the person or thing that you perceive holds the keys to love. What if you don't need anything? And that's the power there. So most people, and even this quote is so stupid. It's like, my partner completes me. You're literally saying in that quote that you're not whole. I'm not enough in who I am by myself, and I need someone else to make me whole. But then if that person treats me like shit, I will stay and put up with it and tolerate it, because if they leave me, I won't be whole anymore. It's a shit setup. So what if, the way I frame it, I'm fucking whole. I love who I am. I've got a fucking epic life. I find someone who's also at that level as well. You come together, elevate, grow, expand together. There's obviously some caveats to that. Number one, you're never fully healed. We spoke about that before. So it's not, because some people might take this, okay, I'm just going to keep healing, and then you never get with anyone. You just need to get to a point where, number one, you're not needy of someone else. You don't need their love for you to be enough. And you take ownership that you've got your own stuff, and you heal through your own stuff, kind of what I was talking about earlier. So they're kind of the three things. So in terms of red flags, though, everyone's got their own unique wants in a relationship. So I always ask, number one, are you whole? Are you needy? Are you detached? Are you doing your work? And are you willing to do your work in a relationship? Because that's where the real work starts. Then what are your non-negotiables for a relationship? I would assume, knowing you, my man, health, you couldn't be with someone who doesn't look after their health. Would I be right with that?
Correct.
Beautiful. Correct. So that's a non-negotiable. But that would be a non-negotiable for you. So a red flag would be someone who doesn't look after their health. Now, does that mean someone who doesn't look after their health is a bad person? Absolutely fucking not. That's okay. That's all good. I'm similar. I couldn't be with someone who doesn't look after their health. I don't need to date a bodybuilder by any means, but it's like, I want that. Self-growth is a huge one for me. I assume the same for you as well. So I couldn't be with someone who doesn't do self-growth. Again, is there anything wrong with not doing self-growth? No, that's cool. That's your life. You go live it. But for me, it's knowing what's your vision. So this goes back to, what are your values and what's your vision for a relationship? What does it look like from intimacy, from communication, from health, from lifestyle, from goals? What are the non-negotiables? No one's perfect. Everyone's got their downsides and everyone's got their upsides. But what are your non-negotiables? And does your partner meet those? Because you don't want to turn water into wine. You don't want to make someone become someone else to fit into what it is that you want. Why don't you just find someone who's that person? But the caveat was that is just understand no one's got everything or perfection, because some people might take that to an extreme. It's like my partner doesn't do as much growth as I do, and that's okay. It's my second highest value, and that's okay. But she does. She works on her stuff. She takes ownership. She heals through her stuff. She works on her, and that's okay. My partner isn't big into business. That's okay. I don't need a partner who's like sort of Hormozy style, where you got Layla and Alex, and they're like super power couples when it comes to business. That's okay. I don't need that. That's not a non-negotiable for me. So you just got to get clear on what your non-negotiables are, and just make sure they're fair and reasonable. The challenge with that question, though, is that's different for everyone, because some people who have certain beliefs and upbringings will have like the belief that the woman in a relationship cooks, cleans, does all this, has sex with me whenever I want, and does everything at my control because I'm the man. And I don't subscribe to that personally, but that's like going into beliefs and cultural and religious beliefs and shit like that. So that can get quite challenging. But what is fair and reasonable to you? And is it coming from insecurities or authenticity? That's probably the only way I could get a little bit clear on that. So why does your partner need to do all of this for you? Because is it from hurt and that's compensation and what you're looking for? Or is it just authentically what you want? And again, it's a hard to define answer because everyone's different. So I'm into self-growth. I'm into health. I love conversations. If my partner wanted to go out and party every weekend, I wouldn't be with her. And that's okay. There's people that go out and party. I trained with a friend of mine. She's an old client from the gym. She popped in today. And she's like, hey, Louis, I'm going to a music festival today. I can't wait to get fucked up. That's literally what she told me during the workout. I said, awesome. Love it. That's awesome. Can't wait. Go enjoy. What are you taking? So it's but it's like I just wouldn't do that, and that's okay. It's just me and her wouldn't date each other, and that's okay. It's so yeah, you just gotta get clear on, man. What for me, are you whole? You're not needy of them, because if you're needy of them, if they treat you like shit because you're scared of losing them, you'll put up with it. Versus set a boundary. If you're not willing to walk away, you're needy of your partner. I say this with love. I could walk away from my partner. I love her. And I would have some healing to do, obviously, to work through that. But if she came home today and started treating me in a way that I don't tolerate and respect with myself, I'd set a firm boundary. Hey, babe, I'm just letting you know the way you did X, Y, Z, A, B, C, even though you might not have intended it to come across that way, it actually hurt me and did X, Y, Z. I'm just letting you know so you're aware of it. If you were to continue doing this and this was become a part of who you are, I wouldn't want to be with someone like that. I'm just making you aware. And that's just a healthy way for anyone that likes examples. That's a good example for you. And vice versa. So I'm thinking of one. This will hit home for men. I told a mate of mine, and he's like, fuck, if my partner said that to me, I would have exploded. And that's his work. It was something along the lines of me just not following through with my word. Like I'd say I'd do something and I just wasn't doing it to the level that I would. Like I said, I'd take out the rubbish or something and I didn't do it. I'd say I'll clean this. I didn't do it. And she fucking looked me dead in the eye and said, I want to date it was something along the lines of like, I don't want to date a boy. I want to date a man. Follow through on your word. I was like, oh, fuck. There's a big one. And my ego could have said, fuck you, and whatever. And I was like, you're fucking right. You're right. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for holding me to a higher standard. But a lot of men, especially got some wounds around your father and mum or whatever beliefs you subscribe to, would say, fuck you, who do you think you are, and or whatever. So, but I was not. She wants to be with a high-value man. What people obviously define that differently, but she wants to be with a man who follows through on her word. And I respect that because I want that for me too as well. So thank you for holding me to that standard. So, kind of gone off track now, but yeah.
No, that's perfect because Amy said something similar to me maybe 6 months ago, because I'm really good at following through on my word with work and with clients. Like I don't skip a beat, but as soon as it's like, as you said, like taken, got a bag of stuff there, and now I'm like, yep, that's not the standard that I said I'd uphold in the household. So you can't, a standard is across the board. It's not just in the areas that please you or suit you in the moment. And especially if the relationship is important to you, maintain those standards.
Yeah, 100%. And when you can get to that level in the sort of stage 3 of that conscious sort of stage of a relationship, where you can bring those conversations in a firm, healthy way. Like she didn't say, fucking Lewis, you piece of shit, fucking blah, blah, blah. It was just like, babe, I want to date a man, not a boy. You said you'd do this and you're not following through with what you said. You know what? You're right. Thank you. Thank you for the accountability. And I will improve on this, and I am going to be better. Thank you for this. But yeah, most people don't get past stage 2 and they'll say, fuck you, this is your fault, it's your fault, blah, blah, and whatever. And then they'll get triggered, blame, project, then break up, go back, find another person, go through stage 1 and 2 again, and just repeat that. So
yeah, just rinse and repeat. One question I wanted to ask that I didn't think I wanted to ask at the beginning, but when you said it, I was like, I'm curious. I see a lot of people, and I speak to a lot of people, and they use ADHD or autism as a reason why they can't do something. It's the reason why their life is in chaos or they're not getting the results that they want. I've consumed a fair bit of your content, and I haven't seen you doing that. Why?
I think it's just the lens you look through it. Like something can be the reason that fuels you or the reason that breaks you. So I see it as an upgrade personally. Like everything's got downsides. Like for someone who's really health orientated, you're gonna be healthy, full of energy, a lot of vitality. But the downside is you're going to invest time that you could invest elsewhere. So it naturally is going to take away from something else. Obviously, it adds to everything else. But like the way I view ADHD, I've got quite a different lens through it. And I was diagnosed with it. I'm not a professional in this sense. It's just my view through it. But the way I view ADHD is someone who has a lot of energy and a high sensitivity to boredom. So life is balanced. So I was diagnosed with ADHD, Asperger's. And mate, I struggled with some things I didn't give a fuck about. So I didn't if you got me, I didn't enjoy geography. Mate, if you ask me where's a place on the map, I fucking don't know. Like my part would organize a bit of a honeymoon. You want to travel here? I'm like, where the fuck is that? It's I just don't understand.
Yep.
However, you get me to do something I'm interested in, laser focus. So whenever life is balanced, so if you have an attention deficit down here, you'll have attention surplus over here. When I was younger, video games, mate, I could play video games 8 hours straight without fucking taking a piss. Like I would be so laser focused. Coaching, I can coach for a very long period of time. Like we've done about an hour now of this, and I see this as coaching. Mate, I'm filming my own podcast after this. I'm filming content today. I've got work laid out for today, and I'm attention surplus on this. I've just got a deficit over there. I just don't give a shit about it. And yeah, I guess that's the way I view it. So it just depends on the lens that you're looking through. Are there downsides to it? Of course, I can have a bit of shiny object sometimes where I'll start a fair few projects and not finish them all. So that's where you might want to have systems and structure in place to support with that. And that just comes back to self-awareness. Like, what are your downsides? How do you improve it? I'm like a creature for habit. So I love having routine. So generally I'll train every morning at 5 a.m. It was a bit later today because it's a Saturday for me. But Monday to Friday, 5 a.m. class, come back, supplements, whatever it is, straight into work for a couple of hours, go freshen up, come back, do another block of it. It's like that's just like a good routine for me. And I do daily huddles. I'm really good with my planning. I've got a lot of structure around that to just compensate for my weaknesses, because everyone's got weaknesses. So I just believe it's the lens you look through it. It can be the best thing that's ever happened to you, and it empowers you. And this is hopefully for anyone that has got quite diagnosed with it, might empower you a bit. If you want to be successful in anything, does it require a lot of fucking focus and energy and input into that thing for a long fucking period of time? Absolutely. So if you've got ADHD, you're going to do that naturally. You're going to be distracted, not give a shit about other things, and just hyper focus on whatever it is. So I'm like, that's kind of what we said earlier. It's like people think I'm super disciplined. It's like, I know what I love. I know who I am. And I have the gift of ADHD. So I'm fucking very focused on it. So yeah, I see it as an upgrade personally.
Love it. Lewis Huckstep, everyone. Where can people find you, Lewis?
Mate, Instagram, I'm on most platforms, but Lewis Huckstep across the board. I'm most active on Instagram. I do all of my posting myself. I respond to all my messages there. So if you want to talk to me, I've got some team that helps out with other things. But if you want to actually chat to me, but I'm on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn. But yeah, if you want to actually have a genuine chat, send me a DM and connect, and love to connect.
Thank you so much for your time. It's been really, really educational.
Enjoyed the conversation, man. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Man That Can Project podcast. My name is Lachlan Stuart, and I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful. If you did, please take a moment to rate and review the Man That Can Project on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with our newest episodes. We'll see you again next time.